We're going to do a few NBA draft questions here before we get to trivia.
Perfect.
First question. Where would you rank Kasparas Yakashonis now? Been a big fan of him since the very beginning. You had Agor over him in your mock. So I've had Yakashonis higher than everybody in the public sphere, I think, the entire way. I had him at 6 in the preseason and got yelled at for having him 6 in the preseason. And I have him, I think, at 5 right now, 4 or 5 right now. It's him. Like, I go back and forth on him and Ace. I probably would. It would depend on what I had around the two of them, which one I would take of those two. So, yeah.
So I've been pretty high on Kasparas as well. After watching the Wisconsin game today, I moved him in my tier of like, these are my top 5 guys. He was number 5 before I watched that game. And then I saw some of the shot making and turnover. Here's the thing. Like, it's funny how some guys we critique things and other guys we don't. He has some really bad turnovers. So like,
totally.
I'm not saying you don't talk about that, but I feel like all of a sudden, because he's surprising people, and I'm not saying you, AA, obviously you've been on him from the beginning, but I feel like sometimes when somebody takes us by surprise, we don't talk about their negatives until later in the cycle. And I feel like that's what's happening with Yakashonis right now, is nobody's talking about the turnovers. He started off that Wisconsin game with 2 really bad ones, like really bad.
Yeah.
And there's some defensive things that at times I'm like, okay, like got to be a little bit better. Listen, still very much in the top 5. And if you told me he ends up even higher, I would not be surprised. I've loved watching him play. I believe they play Tennessee Saturday, which is going to be a really good game to evaluate against that team.
And that's the other thing. Like, they've played
they have
schedule.
Yes, they have.
Like, they've played Alabama and he had 15, 4 and 6. They played Arkansas. He had 23, 6 and 4 and completely shut that shit down at the end. Played Northwestern and lost that game. He had 20, 10 and 7 and was ridiculous. Then they, beat Wisconsin and he has 24, 6 and 5. Like, he has kind of figured out college basketball already.
4 straight 20-point games, Sam. 4 straight.
Yeah.
With 3 of them against Arkansas, Northwestern, Wisconsin on really good shooting percentages.
Yeah. He is, he's a dude, I think.
He's really good.
Kasparas is a real dude. I would have him 3, 4, 5 for sure. But again, like, this isn't new for us here. Like, no, we've been screaming about Yakashonis since the start of the year, I feel like.
Yeah, like, this is one guy I feel pretty good about. That I was, first time I watched him play this summer, I was like, this kid looks really interesting.
From Rachel, how much does Cooper Flagg shooting put a cap on his potential? What is Flagg's worst case scenario? And really, like, we're only talking about like his 3-point shooting here. Like, he's been pretty good in the mid-range to this point. So it just depends on how much you think that mid-range jumper, as he gets stronger and more physical and goes from being, I think 17, maybe turns 18 here coming
this
up
month, right?
In a few days. Yeah.
21st, 9 days.
Yeah. And goes from that to being like 22 years old. I kind of think that, like, he uses the thing like way above his head to generate power. And I wonder if that will be as necessary as he gets older.
I mean, worst case, he's still going to be a really good defender, right? And he processes the game well. I think he can pass. Like, is worst case like an Aaron Gordon-y type of role? Is that like
probably
something like that? I mean, I hate to say the worst case is somebody as good as Aaron Gordon. Obviously, it can be worse than that, but I think that's maybe when we're saying worst cases, maybe that's where his offense caps out at, is like this really good cutter, and you can still use him in interesting ways, but he's not a primary option. He's not a secondary option, but like, he's going to be better than Aaron Gordon defensively, I think, with the way he can do things. So I guess that's probably kind of the archetype you're looking at if the offense just doesn't get any better. But as you mentioned, he's 17. I like a lot of the things he's trying to do. Like, we'll see what it looks like if this is the percentages for the whole season.
Yep. Okay. Have you watched Danny Wolf? Somebody has been getting in your ear, Bryce, about
YouTube user exposed his name to me. I will not do that because he or she doesn't want me to, but they hit me up on my Substack DMs. I've actually got I've probably gotten more Danny Wolf DMs and stuff than any other player thus far. Part of that's because my Twitter account is a Michigan one, Motor City Hoops, but I'm interested to hear this from you. I'm fascinated.
Yeah. So incredibly interesting player. Incredibly interesting player that I struggle to kind of filter my thoughts through. So I love the passing. I love the playmaking ability. I'm intrigued by him. Like the idea of him is that he's a big that you can run actions for, right? Like you can run like a dribble handoff where he is coming up and taking the dribble handoff and taking a couple dribbles and making a read, right? Do you think he's a good enough shooter to actually leverage that? Because my issue is that I don't think he's a good enough athlete to be able to like maintain his advantages in those situations. So really it's going to come down to like the threat of the shot and him being able to like weaponize that in a real way.
Yeah. The games where he's looked the best, like the Xavier game, he was unreal because he shot the three really well. The jumper form is a little funny too. And I think that's why I'm more worried than anything. Like the percentages obviously aren't great to begin with, but man, like you turn that game on, like they're running him off staggers as a 7-footer and he's flaring off screens and reading things. I think just the idea of his size intersecting with ability to put it on the deck a little bit. He's not athletic. Like I think that limits his scoring around the rim, even at his size, even off the dribble, the passing, the potential shooting, his ability to move, all of that. I just find it very, very intriguing. But I do think you're right that if he's not a pretty good shooter, that offensive skill set gets a little bit limited.
Yeah. I see him as like a real live potential second round pick right now.
Yeah, that's the range I have him.
Yeah. I would really need to see him be a shooter to go any more than that.
Sure.
Because the athleticism is going to present like real concerns on defense and like real concerns just in terms of like maintaining advantages on offense. Are big two-way guards the new rim protecting floor spacing centers? No, but they're incredibly valuable. Like big two-way guards matter. I think that they're incredibly important. And you know, I think you and I have talked about that for a long time as well, that you know, getting these big two-way wings and guards who can actually guard up the lineup are critical. But rim protecting floor spacing centers, there are still so few of those guys league wide. There are way more big two-way guards than there are floor spacing centers who can actually genuinely protect the rim. Like you can still count those guys like it's Chet, it's Turner, it's Kristaps, it's
Triple J.
You know, yes, but like he's not incredible as like a primary center rim protector. He's
That's
better
true.
At the
true. No, 100. He's not anchor of your.
Well.
He's not an anchor of your defense. Big in that terms. That's fair. More than fair.
like Joel doesn't shoot, but Joel just has so much gravity. Like as an overall playmaker that he would certainly qualify here for me. But there just aren't a lot of these guys, and I'm sure I missed
Brooke Lopez still does it
for sure. Yep, but like there just aren't a lot of these guys out there, so it's the scarcity that makes them really, really valuable league wide.
I mean, look at this draft right now. I mean, just with the names at the top that are off the ball, like Cooper, Ace, VJ,
just straight up, this archetype does not exist in this draft.
Con Knipple, like down the line, true bigs. I was having this conversation in a group chat today. Like, I think there's a lot of bigs right now that have a chance to get into the first round because that true big man situation in this draft is not great. You know, like I was way higher on Common than you were, and I've dropped him significantly since we started having to do the big board and have these conversations, like a lot. And I was super high on him, and it hasn't materialized.
Yeah.
I mean, it's why the kid at San Diego State is interesting right now. Like I've had people asking me about him because he is that archetype. And I think that tells you kind of why, because when
that kid is nowhere near ready.
Yeah.
Like that kid needs to stay in school for like 2 years still.
And I don't want to mess up his name. I've just Magoon Guath, I think is probably how you say it at San Diego State.
No, it is. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah, not a 2025 guy. He's very interesting though. And that's why people are bringing him up, because he's shown to potentially be this archetype of big.
Yeah. And it's why people still bring up Zvonimir Ivisic, even though Tomislav is better.
Tomislav is definitely better.
Yeah, like Tomislav's a really good basketball player. But again, Tomislav is like what are we going to call him? 6'10 and a half probably without shoes. So, doesn't really have the rim protection. So it's tricky. Let's get to a quick little note from Prize Picks. Prize Picks is the best place to get real money sports action with over 10 million members and billions of dollars in awarded winnings. Prize Picks has made daily fantasy sports accessible to all. You just pick more or less on at least 2 players for a shot to win up to 100 times your cash. Run your game all season long on Prize Picks. Prize Picks is the best place to get real money action. There are over 10 million members. Like I said a second ago, they invented the flex play, which means you can still cash out if your lineup isn't perfect. You can double your money even if one of your picks doesn't hit. Prize Picks always puts its members first, so all withdrawals are fast, safe, and secure. When my picks hit, I can get my money in as quick as 15 minutes. We are big fans of Prize Picks here. We absolutely love the app and what they're doing for the daily fantasy sports scene. Download the app today and use code GameTheory to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Download the app today and use that code GameTheory to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks, run your game. My Doer jeans are truly my favorite piece of clothing that I own right now. They sent me out a pair of jeans and they are fantastic. I've been wearing these things everywhere that I can whenever I go out of the house. They are so comfortable. They look great. They feel great. They're stylish. They're versatile. You can wear them in a lot of different situations. They are fantastic, fantastic jeans. Doer is built for doing, with styles of stretch performance denim and lifestyle apparel for everyone in every season. Doer has you covered for the colder winter months with fabrics like a fireside denim, which is interwoven with fleece for warmth without too much bulk. Plus, Doer's clothes are sustainably crafted to last. They're going to be a staple in my closet for years. I am going to try and get them to send me more clothes out, in all honesty, because they have been so good. I love my Doers, and I'm sure you will too. Check out Doer's flagship stores in LA or Denver, or shop online at shopdoer.com/game theory. That's shopduer.com/game theory. Right now, my listeners are going to get 20% off your first purchase when you use that exclusive URL. Don't wait. Get 20% off at shopdoer.com/game theory. Are you still bought in on Khan? Yes. Like, Khan to me is a lottery pick. He defends his position and he's definitely a shooter. Give me, if anybody is selling Khan Knippel stock, I will continue to buy.
Yeah. I mean, the other thing I'll say here is, no, I agree with that. I also struggle to find people to move in front of him anyway. So
that too. That's absolutely a really, really good point. Let's see here. Do we have a couple? I think I saw a couple of others in here. Let's see here. Thoughts on the huge NIL deal for AJ Debinsa? I mean, look, like people know that I love Matt Norlander, and I will never disparage anything that he writes or says. I just think that sometimes, I will be interested to see if it's actually $5 million that he's getting from BYU's collective, and there's just no way to verify that really at this point. So his financial advisor saying that I have some questions about, but it's very clearly a massive deal. And for BYU, it's probably worth it because BYU, all due respect to Jimmer, right? But you're building a basketball brand right now with Yegor and with Debansa committing. And, they've done a really, really good job, I think, of deciding, hey, we're going to invest in this thing. And there's just no better investment that you can make than a year of AJ Debansa, who's going to go in the top 3 of that draft, certainly. And, every possibility to go number 1.
Yeah. Yes. Everything you said there. It's interesting to see BYU continue to build it out, but you gotta, while you have this kind of energy, it's good to stay with it. And Debansa is going to obviously continue to push that forward.
Yeah. No, I agree. So, and AJ's a stud too. Like that kid's really good basketball player. Just like really, really sick basketball player. Final question here. If Dylan Harper keeps shooting the basketball well, is he the number 1 overall pick? Very much in the running. He's in the running right now to go number 1, just straight up. Cooper, I still think would very clearly go 1, if I'm being honest. But this is number 1 is a real conversation right now.
Yeah.
Like teams are not set on this. This is not like a done deal for Cooper, which we said at the start of the year, it was not a done deal for Cooper. We continue to
listen. I've been screaming at people that call it the Cooper flag draft to stop calling it that. Now, in fairness, I was pushing the Ace Bailey agenda at the time, but I still would mention all 5 of the guys, which one of those guys has really dropped out and another one has dropped out a little bit. But still, I've never considered this just the Cooper flag draft.
Yeah, and to like the point on Dylan Harper, right? Dylan Harper's been unbelievable to this point.
Awesome.
And like continues to just like blow me away every time I watch him. He's averaging 23, 5 and 5, shooting 51, 32, 76 or 51, 33, 77. I'm sorry, is what it is.
Yep.
He's been incredible. Like he's been absolutely unbelievable in a Rutgers scheme where there isn't exactly like a ton of space for him to operate all the time, with how they guard him, right? And his ability to just navigate bodies in the lane is incredible and unbelievable. And man, when I watch him, I'm just like, this is totally sick every single time. But he is not like a monster athlete. And I do want to see where the shooting settles, because I think that is going to tell a lot. I really, really like the way he uses his extension in terms of stride and like arm extension to finish at the basket. I think those are both really, really critical skills that make him as successful once he gets paint touches of getting to the rim as he's been. Yeah, like he's absolutely in the mix. To me, it's more what does Cooper do? As much as it's what Dylan does. Like it's both of them. How do those guys continue to play throughout the year? How do they both look throughout the year? Not just like, how does Dylan look or how does Cooper look? It's going to be dependent on both of them, in my opinion. There's not one thing that Dylan can do that will make him go number 1. It's okay if Dylan does this and then Cooper doesn't do this or does this, or if Cooper does this and then Dylan doesn't do this. It's a real conversation at number 1 though.
Yeah, because what if Cooper Flag shoots the ball really well through all of ACC play, and then all of a sudden all of these offensive questions are gone and we start really highlighting how good he is defensively again? I will say, watching the Rutgers Penn State game just the other day, the way Harper looked off the bounce with these threes was really, really intriguing. Like
smooth.
Really smooth. I think at times it comes out flat, but I think that's something you can fix. Like I'd rather be like, hey, he's got to get a little bit more upward on it. That's better than some of the other funky mechanical stuff you can worry about with a player. He has such good body control. He's so strong. I'll admit, of the 5 guys initially going back 6 months, Harper was my 5th guy. He was the one I wasn't as sure about, or didn't think I was as sure about, wasn't sure about the athleticism and some of those things. I've been so impressed. He is definitely number 2 on my board right now, as he is on most people's. And I was watching that game going, man, if he can really score like this, the way he rebounds, he defends, he's physical, like there is real, as you mentioned, number 1 potential depending on how he plays through the next few months. And important to note, how Cooper plays.
Yeah. What I will say is this. The question here is if Dillon keeps shooting the ball well. We've seen Dillon shoot the ball better than we've seen Cooper shoot the ball.
Yeah.
If Cooper shoots well, Cooper is going. I mean, I say what I said a second ago, where it's like it's dependent on how they both do. If Cooper shoots the ball well, and part of the reason that I'm, saying that it's going to be both of them is I don't really think Cooper's going to shoot 40% from 3 in ACC play. But like if he was to shoot 40% in ACC play from 3, he's going number 1. Yeah. Like it would be really surprising to me if he shoots 40% from 3 in ACC play and doesn't go number 1.
Agreed.
But I would be pretty stunned if that was to happen, which is why I kind of say like it's going to be a conversation throughout for both of them.